Alright, we're going to try this again. This is attempt number 2. The first time the audio didn't come through for some reason. Anyway, we're here a couple hours later. I came in to check on it, and you can see here that I'm pulling quite a bit more amperage. We'll get to why in just a second here. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is turn this off. And I'm going to pull my rod out. And, well, I didn't show you a before shot, but at the end of all this, you're going to find that this guy is way, way rustier than he was when he started, because all the rust you're pulling off of here, well, not all of it, but a decent amount of it, is actually getting electroplated onto this guy. This is actually known as your sacrificial piece of metal. And this is why I was drawing more amperage. So, where your poles are in relation to each other matter. So, you can see this is just absolutely clean, spotless, while the rest of this is still nasty, and I've still got some rust there. And if you look at the placement of that spot, right there, right? And it's because electricity simultaneously runs across all paths, but ultimately goes through the path of least resistance when you have what's called a dead short. Now, if this were touching, we wouldn't get any effect at all. This would just be water that it'd be sitting in, and it'd be electrified slightly. There would be no change. But it is because of this gap, as the electrons are jumping from your metal to your metal, they're actually pulling chunks with them. And so if I let this go and just, left it overnight, you come back, and this will actually continue to clean up. It'll continue to go along this way. But what's really interesting is you could leave it in there long enough, and you would actually come back to no pan at all. Right up here, you'd just be holding a little chunk of metal up to the point where you disconnected with that. And the reason for that, it's kind of interesting how it does it too, is basically as this patina is being removed, the pan becomes more conductive. So here it has a lot more conductivity to the water than it does here. And so you get a line of conductivity of which is much, much higher. But because it's higher, more electrons are leaving, which means more stuff is leaving faster. And so it kind of burns almost like a wildfire. You'll see it just go like this, right? But once it's pulled this patina off, it will continue pulling, and it's going to just start pulling metal off. And so if I kept this in this orientation, what you'd actually end up seeing is you'd see this get cleaned up, and it would progressively get cleaned up through the pan up until it got up into some point up in here. And by that point, you might be able to notice some thinning right here. Maybe not. Depends. But pretty quickly, you would notice that the pan would start getting noticeably thinner here, and then it would start eating away almost back up in and away up into the point where the conductivity of the water was so great that the electrons can't flow anymore. And so it's something you just have to be aware of, because if you leave it and you forget about it for a week in the garage, you could come back to no pan at all.